Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the April 4th, 2018 Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting.
Okay. Straight.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting, April 4th, 2018, approximately 6 p.m. Please join Member Brimer for a moment of silence and a pledge.
If you'd stand for a moment of silence, please. If you join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, citizens' comments. Hearing none. Moving on to 4, members' comments.
I have none.
Okay.
Same.
Nothing.
Nope. I have just a question, Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
On the CRA and stormwater fees,
Mm-hmm.
is that handled different? Okay. So if we do one, or that proposal to possibly raise those fees, then do we need to do something different because it's in the CRA?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nope, totally different.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to Executive Director's report.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to let you know the mast arms are going in. The last is going to be done by the end of next week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The Scorpion and High Tower should be completed by then. We are scheduling a meeting with the Secretary of District 5 to discuss the crosswalks. And I believe Julie's trying to get you into that meeting.
I would like to be in that meeting, so if you could let me know as soon as we can, so I can.
So she's trying to get some dates from that.
Okay.
From his secretary.
On that, at the last South Beaches Coalition, Mark Ryan had mentioned that something had passed, and it might have been Highway Association or something like that, about the flashing lights and
That's
pedestrian crosswalks, that you cannot do that now.
No, that's not true. That's actually the opposite.
Is that right?
They had canceled it, but then they reissued
Okay.
authorization to allow it.
That's correct.
Because that's what he had said, that they had canceled it at that time, so they reauthorized it.
Yes.
Okay.
No. So that's more in our favor.
Yes.
for
I
that.
knew that was a big contention item, and I was wondering where that went.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's very confusing. I mean, the more I stand there and I pulled over at Crotty Park and kind of watched that, I'm glad they covered them because the rate of speed, now hopefully what it does is it slows down, but obviously if you've traveled that road for any length of time, that's not something you expect. And I'll tell you, it is. It's nerve-wracking. I mean, it could be dangerous, and I want to make sure we're covered on it, because I can tell you, I have gotten more people stopping me on the streets and calling me than I have on anything, basically anything else. I mean, everybody that sees me goes, hey, what's going on with the A1A?
Yeah.
I mean, not only that, but just the project now in general, I think it's starting to wear on them, so.
Yeah. Well, they'll be starting the resurfacing by the end of the month of April. I don't know why it's taking that long for them to start that, but please understand that we go through this in every construction project that changes the function or the structure of the road. So unless you keep absolutely everything the same, people are always going to be upset with the change in any way, especially any change that requires a change in driving patterns. So once the crosswalks go in with the paint on the ground, and they're marked very clearly, even if we haven't been successful with the lights yet, we will make sure that we put out notices to the community through Facebook, through, we might even send a letter out to the community informing them, to make sure they watch their driving patterns, but it's going to take some enforcement. So PD will be prepared to start out there to make sure that people, stop when they see a pedestrian in the crosswalk. So it will take that culture change over time. And that's just the way it's, it's interesting because when you go to different areas, like if you go to Gainesville, bikes rule that area. So, it took me about 6 months to get used to that. And I probably almost hit 4 or 5 bikers because they'll run right in front of you if they think, because they have the right of way. And I'm not used to that, or I wasn't. When you go to Marco Island, those crosswalks are the standard, so people stop and it's common practice, but you'll see every now and then a tourist blow right through them because they're not used to it. So it takes that culture change, and that's just what our community will have to go through. And, we did sign on for that when we created the plans. And
I think the enforcement part is going to be necessary, only because we can tell our residents, as you said, we can, even if you send a letter, but you know how many people are from Indian Atlantic, Indian Harbor, Patrick, and people north and south that are traversing that aren't going to get that direct information. Or tourists, they won't get that direct information. Only way they're going to get that is through enforcement or seeing
They
some.
don't enforce it in Indian Atlantic on the one that they have there. I see people blow through that all the time.
One other issue was brought up last night by Melbourne City Water, I believe. It said they were going to be doing some work on A1A and was trying to beat the road.
the
being
repaving,
paved.
right.
So I hope we can make sure that's coordinated, so.
And they do that themselves. We don't have to intervene with that. They contact the DOT for that stuff.
I call Courtney about the same thing you're talking about right now. And, I look at the fact that, for years we tried to deal with sign clutter. And, the one that's down there by, where Cuisines is, there's more signs on that little 15 or 20 foot. There's no U-turn signs. Do we need all those no U-turn signs there? Those things are, it's pretty obvious you can't make a U-turn there. It looks like
Well, it's
some of
obvious
these
to
are
us, but you'd
overkill.
be amazed at how many people would do it anyway because out of, convenience and so on, and then they end up having to back up into the road.
Well, we got
because
sign clutter,
because
sign clutter again, that's basically what it comes down to.
When we get the medians landscaped and hardscaped, I think it'll look a lot nicer. But
Okay.
again, I looked back at the plans, and sometimes we forget what we asked for, and we did ask for this. That's what we signed on for, so.
I just want to say, I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, I brought this up to Courtney's attention, and Mike brought this. If you're far enough away from the stoplights on DeSoto, they put both arms on the same side of the road. You can't see the red light if you're far enough. Did you notice
So
that?
I went out there, and I had to drive about 70 times to time the lights, but I did that at night and during the day. But there's no safety issue there, because it's so far away when it overlaps that you'd have like 2 red lights by the time you get
But
there.
I'm curious as to why they didn't do one on each side, like they did.
Because they didn't have right of way. They didn't have room. So
wasn't
there's a power light there. If you go over there, you'll see the power poles there. And there's like transformer boxes there.
Right.
So there would be a whole utility redo for them on a,
Are they gonna, when are they gonna synchronize the lights on A1A too, because that's not.
County will do it as soon as all the mast arms are in. Yeah.
Because it's kind of informal, we don't have a big crowd. Mayor Schechter, do you have something you would like to please?
David Schechter, I was on the CRA Advisory Committee when we went through all this stuff, and we had all those meetings. And I'm very supportive of what you're trying to do out there. It's going to take a while to educate people, and we need to get to do that. The idea is to be safe. Right now, flying 80 miles through there is not safe, 80 miles an hour. A guy on a bicycle doing all that stuff. So having some identified places to cross was critical to making that happen. We at least, 6, 7, how many got? I don't know how many got now.
Yeah, we have 6. Yeah.
And I didn't know what they're going to look like. I just knew it was supposed to be there for safety. To stress again what the safety they did, what the goal was, and why we're trying to do this, and it's going to take some education. I agree with the city manager. That's what I'm trying to remind you. We talked about that when we went through it, trying to get people safely across that highway. And we didn't advertise to slow down so much. I know it's going to happen, because that's what happens when you put things to slow down.
Right.
And they're going to be unhappy with that. Someone going to be unhappy. But the time it changes, the time it takes to go from one end to the other is going to be not very an awful lot. You can put some numbers on it. We'll be ready to do that when they do it. But yeah, and then one thing that's hurting it right now is the fact that we're not getting it all done right now.
Right.
It's getting piece by piece, and it's looking crap.
It's the
Excuse me,
length of
looking.
time. Yeah.
But I think too, we got to remember, David, remember those surveys we did in the city? The
Yep.
first couple things that always were was access to the beach and the safety on A1A. Since 1981, that's been on there. And people wanting to be safe crossing.
Right.
So,
And recognize those neighborhoods they serve, and remind people of that. That's what it helps serve them. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm really happy to, well, not happy to see the way they're doing it, but let's get it done and be safe out there. Just keep, and if you don't think it's safe now, remember what it's not like without them,
Right.
and it'll take us a while. Peace.
thank you. Okay, any other thing for Courtney? Okay. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, discuss, take action on amended interlocal agreement with Horry County. Courtney?
Yes, you have already approved an interlocal agreement. As you recall, we went through some changes with Brevard County. There's some changes to the language that they adopted with the negotiation, my approval and support on that. So we're bringing it back to you for your, hopefully, approval. And basically what this does is, we agreed to add in the language, any changes to the CRA plan subsequent to the execution of this agreement shall require their approval of the Brevard County Board of County Commissioners. And then nothing in this agreement shall be interpreted as modifying the authority of the Board of County Commissioners as outlined in Section 3B of the Resolution Number 2-136. And what that section of that resolution means is that they could come over and take over the CRA. But we already agreed to that previously, and so we don't really care.
Any change to the CRA plan, that bothers me that they would have, to be very honest, that we'd have approval, that they would have that from the standpoint, if we want to change our plan because times change or we needed something, now we lose that flexibility. They have to agree to it. And with that commission, a lot of them could be, they're not very pro-CRA.
Well,
so my concern is blocking us.
Well, you all wanted to in the CRA. You agreed to final projects of the CRA. We have a list of projects, and the CRA plan allows us to move and modify the money within those projects. But, I mean, if you want to end the CRA, then why would you continue to add projects?
Well, not saying I would or not, but I don't want them to be in control of our CRA. That's my only concern. What if you come to us and say, you know, something came up environmentally, we really need to consider this, and then we get blocked by them. That's my only concern. And because we had agreements with them prior to this, and when we signed that agreement for, what, 20 years, 25 years? That's my only concern. I don't know if it's going to ever affect us.
The issue, though, at this point is that it was our understanding that you all wanted to end the CRA. So we negotiated that agreement with that in mind. So if we didn't want to end the CRA and we wanted to add projects later, we probably should have known that before we went into.
But this is in addition to what we
Why would they
agreed
even be
on
putting it
before.
in there? Why would they even be putting it in there? If they knew we were ending the CRA, why would we even need
Because
that
this,
language in
you
there?
have 5 county commissioners, 2 of them are very difficult to deal with, and this is the county manager and I trying to deal with 10 people of what they want to do with the CRA, you know.
I guess my question is
So, in our opinion, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this didn't matter in the world of what we, and our goals, if our goals were to end the CRA and we have a structured plan, and that's what we're doing, we only have 2 more projects literally to do, then why would this matter?
what if this example and this whole what if, and I'm kind of okay with it, but I see a little bit of what he's saying is that not necessarily that we would want to necessarily spend more money outside of what we already have allocated, but what if we decided that something was more important that wasn't in the original plan, and we said, okay, we're not going to do this project, but now we want to do this one instead because all of a sudden this emergency popped up. But because of this wording, we're going to have to go to the county and say, okay, we're not asking for any more money necessarily, because we don't want to, I don't personally want to do any more money.
Close it.
We're not, but, you know, does that stop, do we have to go to them and ask for that?
Yes.
So that would be my only, it would be better if it would say that well, I mean, it is what it is, I don't want to, I could just see that, I doubt that'll ever happen in a million years.
So we have 1 more fiscal year before we end projects,
Right.
the next fiscal year.
Just, again, And I understand where you're going from that process. My only concern is, we had an agreement with them already. And in reality, we never even have to do this agreement.
No, we don't.
So, again, I'm okay. I just hate to be straddled with something that wouldn't change whether we closed the CRA or not by that date, but a project might change out of that group of projects that, as a council, we might feel, this will really help. I don't know what that is at this time, but, we had an agreement with them. I trust you, I just don't
It's just
necessarily
that this,
trust that.
this next year, we have those specific projects that we wanted to complete. The year after that, we're facing a $600,000 hit to our general fund budget. The likelihood, in my opinion, of you all saying we're going to continue the CRA is incredibly slim. So it would, in my advice would be that the political backlash of not doing this in favor of something that probably won't happen next year and the year after is not worth it.
How much time do we have paying off debt service? When does
We
that?
will
to the end.
be, yeah, we will be into the end.
Well, and that's why, I think what Frank is bringing up, even though we don't have anything outlined as a plan, the debt service is going to go on for another
Until
7
2025.
8 years? 7, 8, what is it?
Yeah, 7 years.
So, but if something did come up in that time frame, like maybe in the last 2 years that we wanted to do something, and utilize money that we would generally be paying back to ourselves and paying back to the county, and we wanted to do something, we would have to go back to them to get their approval. And see, I kind of agree with Frank. I
I
mean,
mean, in the previous agreement, you agreed to that project list as an exhibit, and that's what we were going to do. And we were going to pay in the CRA at that year and go on. So we've already agreed to that scenario.
and that's why I don't understand why they're putting this provision in here.
Because
why they're
we
making
have
it.
2 more years,
Well, and
this year and next year.
I know, and I realize that, but to me, and we're probably going to pass this, but to me, this is the same thing that we preach about home rule and local government control. This is them intruding on our ability to an agreement we already have to do things that we might or might not want to do. Why is it even in there? We already have an agreement that we signed with them. Why are they pressuring us to put this in?
It's politics.
It makes no.
It's having two,
People-
it's having 2 people that are making it difficult for the rest of us.
Let me just ask you this. We sign that we get this agreement passes. Can we change, I think they would probably go by it. If you all of a sudden came to us and said, let's end the CRA now. Would we have to go to them for that?
If we wanted to end the CRA now,
Until debt service is paid.
Well, or-
you would just not do the project and just
pay
give back the
that,
money.
and then
yeah.
pay them back
Correct.
their money
Right.
for a tip, okay.
So the other thing too is, this is something that our county commissioner was looking to do. We have other things that we're going to be needing from them. So
And that's-
just, you have to decide which is worth,
This is minute in that scale.
correct.
All right, if you're comfortable, fine. I just hate for somebody to tell us kind of what to do on something like this. Now, we already had an agreement. They changed, want the agreement changed. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm no problem.
I have one question. This is just me not having been around very long when it comes to the CRA. So hypothetically down the road, anything in the CRA that would need to be done from city funds has to be done through CRA funds, period? Okay. So if something were else, we could fund it.
Yeah, we can
through the
always
city.
fund it through our regular funds.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just if we wanted to resurrect the CRA and add projects, we would have to go back to the county for that approval.
All right, that's cool.
Let me open up for public comment on agenda item 6. Thanks.
David Schaefer, citizen. At what level of change are they talking about? Adding projects, or if we move the funding around for a couple of years for those projects, would that be something we had to go back to them?
No, like the projects that are listed there now,
Okay, so-
we can move money through and out.
Okay,
And
all right.
move them out years if we wanted, whatever we want to do.
So they're not nickel and diming, and on that kind of thing, right?
Right.
All right. Yeah, I had doubts when we first got into this thing. As you remember, the discussions about things we won't bring up anymore. We're there, and this is the way we are. We decided to get out. That was a decision. It was a tough one, for particularly guys that were involved in the advisory committee, because they see all these great things going down the road that they could get done, literally down the road in some cases. But, you know, everybody seemed to buy into it. At least they spoke reluctantly maybe, but they bought into this is the plan we need to go for. So I would suggest that particularly the political situation over there, that we just go ahead with this. If we have to go back and fight that battle, we'll go back and fight that battle. But I suspect, as Mindy asked the question, if we think it's worth it while, we may have to find another way to fund it, which is the case for most of the stuff we have to do. It's a little bit reserve funds or some way, some strategy to get done what you need to get done. And 2 years, then it's just basically paying off the debt, right?
Right.
Let's get on with it.
So let me throw this just a thing out. What happens if 3 years down the road, we have a hurricane and Pelican Beach Park is decimated and we can't use CRA money to fix it? We would have to use general fund money to fix it? I mean, if the roofs come off the pavilions and we have to replace all of the roofs, we have to go to the county to get their permission to do that?
Yeah, and I don't think CRA funds would qualify for that. You can't do maintenance with CRA funds. You could do general maintenance of your parks as long as your CRA is there, but you can't, you know, total decimation and just rebuildings of that you already had. That's not redevelopment. That's just fixing it. So that would be FEMA money and your reserves and your insurance money. Yeah.
Great.
So the other thing I wanted to just help you through it mentally, because I know it's hard to relinquish control to another entity, and I understand that. But remember that back when we were going through, you know, our finances, when we presented how hard the CRA is on the general fund here in this city, the way our CRA is set up. It's not like CRAs in other cities. It takes up a substantial amount of our funds. And we've been slowly reducing that impact because we're giving money back. But I think you'll see a large opposition from the staff, and especially the finance staff, about resurrecting any more CRA projects, simply because it takes so much from the operating revenues, and it makes it very difficult for us to just deal with regular cost increase in the city.
Our CRA is in the highest price tax area of the city, and that's not the norm for most CRAs in the state of Florida. It's generally the opposite.
Right. And we're probably the highest anywhere in this county.
Yeah.
For sure. So,
I'll make a motion to authorize the Community Redevelopment Agency Chair to sign the amended interlocal agreement with Brevard County.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Montanaro, second by Member Gibson. Apologize. Any further discussion? Lenore?
Mark Reimer,
Yes.
Steve Osmer,
Yes.
Mindy Gibson. Yes. Vice Chairman Montanaro.
Yes.
Chairman Catino.
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Courtney. Moving on to agenda item 7, discuss take action on revised FY 16-17 CRA Agency Annual Report.
So if you look at your previous agenda item and see the annual report template, that was a template that was agreed upon by the CRA directors or staff members over the period of the last couple of years. And those have been in all of the agreements with the CRAs. And we realized that our CRA annual report did not follow that template, so we revamped it and made it follow the template. And so we're back in front of you for approval, so we can send that over to the county.
Okay. Thank you. Questions?
I would like to make a motion to approve and send the fiscal year 16-17 CRA annual report to the taxing authorities as amended.
Second?
I have a motion by Member Gibson, second by Member Osmer. Opened up for public comment on agenda item 7. Hearing none, back to board.
Thanks for getting us straight, Suzanne and Courtney.
Okay. Any further? Lenore?
Mark Reimer.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Montanaro.
Yes.
Steve Osmer.
Yes.
Mindy Gibson.
Yes.
Chairman Catino.
Yes, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 8, adoption of minutes for
I'll make a
March 7th.
motion to approve the CRA regular meeting minutes for March 7th.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Montanaro, second by Member Brymer.
Yes.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Mary Gibson.
Yes.
Steve Osmer.
Yes.
Mark Reimer.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Montanaro.
Yep.
Chairman Catino.
Yes. Motion passes. Any further business? Please note the next meeting is June 6th down here. Okay. Any further? Okay. Meeting's adjourned. I just wanted to make sure we were